I'm presenting on the encyclical Persona Humana. When this encyclical was written in 1975, the then modern view of sexuality was so out of line with the Catholic Church's teaching that they thought it necessary to reinforce the beliefs that they had held for many years. Our modern view of sexuality is even worse than it was back then. We have bishops and priests that are here to guide us towards natural law, which is in accordance with God's law. And they must reinforce this for us when society turns away from it and tells us that we can just go with the way what feels nice at the time. The Church's teaching is not to rule our lives and to make us unhappy, but to lead us to the greater good, which is closer to God and will get us closer to heaven. All people strive to live out their lives in the best way possible, but they need guidance. The Church has been given a moral order from Christ that is without error, and that will never change. Morality does not depend upon a particular culture, nor does it depend upon a particular person. It is not relative, and it is the same for every human being. The Church's stance on certain sexual issues has never changed and will never change because it is based upon facts. We are made to live in a certain way that will benefit us in the long run and will end up making us happier and healthier human beings. One of the most common misuses of our human sexuality today is in premarital sex. In marriage, spouses are called to love one another as Christ loves his bride, the church. There are two equally important parts to the sexual union. They are to be open to children, which is part of the procreative aspect, and there is a unitive aspect as well. Most likely, sex between two people outside the contents of marriage does not welcome children, and other times it is not unitive for the couple either. This is a misuse of the gift of our human sexuality because it goes against nature and disrespects the gift. Homosexuality used to be classified as a psychological disorder, but we know differently now. Even though it is incurable, that does not make it natural. You should hate the sin and not the sinner. The homosexual act is what is sinful, not the thoughts and feelings behind it, which are uncontrollable. The media makes it seem like there are more gay people than there actually are, as a means of trying to make this morally acceptable. Some people have a harder cross to bear than others, and that's why the Catholic Church and God ask. Masturbation has always been wrong in the eyes of the Church. Even though now the media makes a joke out of it, it's actually destroying people's lives. Many people don't realize that it's one of the leading causes in divorce now. They also don't realize that it's an addiction. Individuals may need the assistance of an outside person to overcome this addiction. It's a fabrication of the sexual union which was made to be shared between one man and one woman in the bonds of marriage alone. Our bodies are made as temples of the Holy Spirit, and out of respect for this fact, we must live in a certain way. All human beings are called to a certain level of chastity. Different times in our lives call for different variations of this chastity. For example, a married woman is not called to the same type of chastity as an 18-year-old girl would be. A married woman must work with her husband to be chaste in their own way. Unlike Mary, we were not born as perfect human beings. We were born with the stain of original sin on our souls. Though baptism erases this original sin from our souls, we are still able and extremely likely to sin. A mortal sin does not have to be a big acknowledgement of turning away from God. It can be an everyday habit that we do not realize is causing us to grow further and further away from Christ. Sin can be overcome with God's grace and help. God does not. One of the largest influences on our society is the media. Sadly, the media has way too much control over society's view of morality. The media is leading people to believe that anything that feels good is right for you. Other influential people must work to lead society back towards God's plan for us, which is what will actually make us feel good and happy in the end. God always forgives. Humans sometimes forgive, but nature never forgives. God's law is natural law, and we are called to follow it in everything we do, because it will be beneficial for us and for the rest of society. Some of the most common misuses of sexuality that plague our society nowadays are gay marriage, cohabitation, masturbation, and contraception. There are now 9 states, and also Washington, D.C., that have legalized gay marriage. Cohabitation is growing more and more common, and there is a direct correlation between that and divorce. Masturbation is accepted as perfectly normal for teenagers and is commonly used as a theme in comedies. Schools teach safe sex instead of abstinence, which tells teenagers that they can have all the sex they want as long as they're being safe and trying to avoid pregnancy and STDs.